Who's your favourite boxer?
Epo, put the clip in. Ernie Shavers is a veritable legend in the world of boxing, thanks almost entirely due to the force he can exert while punching things. In his prime, Shavers' punch prowess was so well known that even the late great Muhammad Ali didn't want none, something Shavers is rightfully all kinds of proud of.
So why are we talking about Shavers today?
Well, to put it simply, it is the opinion of many experts and boxers who face Shavers in the ring that he possessed the singular hardest punch of any boxer in history. Like, you know, that's like quite a feat considering that like some of the other boxers he's standing on. Like, I'm not saying like in his weight class, I'm not saying like of his era, I am saying in all of boxing, this guy had the hardest fucking punch. Like Muhammad Ali himself, which like story we'll get to in a moment, like confirmed in his life, like no one ever hit me as hard as Ernie Shavers did. Like every boxer who faced him was like, it's like, yeah, he's not like, his speed's like, you know, leaves a lot to be desired. His technique maybe not all there, but that fucking punch though, do not step to that punch. It's just like defence has just crumbled before Shavers. Like his punching power was just like to the point where people didn't want to fight him. It's like, because even if you win, chances are you're going to be walking away with like broken ribs or some shit. 'Cause that's the thing he could do with his punches. And obviously the question is like, well, how did this man develop such like phenomenal punching power? And it's because he worked out super hard doing the Rocky method.
By the Rocky method, I'm assuming you mean like old school.
Yeah, not like going to the gym and lifting weights. I'm talking like just natural movement, like over time to develop the muscles in like a natural organic way. And two of the exercises that Shavers like favoured the most was throwing around large bales of hay and chopping wood. And chopping wood was such like a mainstay of his workout regime that almost all of his promotional photos featured him holding an axe, so people knew that he'd taken the photo in between chopping wood. And using that as a jumping off point, what is your favourite weird exercise featured specifically in the Rocky movies? Because each of those movies usually has, like, they always have the famous montage scene. There's usually an exercise in there that he does that's like considered weird by everyone else, but helps him, like, you know, develop that edge that he needs for the fight.
The classic is punching meat.
Punching meat, yeah, to obviously get used to hitting, like, you know, something that feels like akin to human flesh. Because, fun fact, people who don't know, pig corpses are used in ballistic tests and things of that manner because, like, the makeup of a pig's flesh and the density of his bones is almost exactly what a human's is. So punching an upside down piece of meat or a big like side of beef or some shit is like punching a human body. And, like, obviously it shows you in that scene, you're like, oh yeah, it helps me like learn like if my punch can break a rib because he's just punching, he's breaking this cow's ribs.
You know that scene in it was the post-credit scene of Captain America.
Yes.
Where he punches the punching bag and it goes flying across the room.
Yeah.
I imagine that if Shavers did that with the meat, just punches the cow and it just goes flying across the room.
No, not the cow hanging from the hook, the actual cow in reality. I think my favourite's in Balboa, where Rocky comes out of retirement to fight the heavyweight champion after a computer simulation says in his prime he'd have beaten him. Like, you know, to prove his worth, like, you know, test his mettle once again. And it involves just slamming a hubcap into a concrete floor as hard as humanly possible, over and over and over again. Obviously, just get used to, like, obviously the vibrations, like, going up his arm. It's like, I saw him and went, holy fuck, a man who can do that is a man I do not want to fight. Because that's, like, the comment they make, isn't it? Like, in the very first Rocky movie, he starts punching the meat. Like, you see, like, Apollo Creed look at him doing it and going, this guy's actually legit. He might fuck me up. If he could do that to, like, a side of beef, what is he going to do to me? And it's like, I think the one is, like, in Creed, they do it again. And in Creed 2, like, spoilers, like, Creed gets his fucking arse handed to him by Ivan Drago's son in the first fight because he can't, like, survive the punches. He does, like, the exercise where he just crouches over and flexes his neck and lifts weights with his neck to build up his neck muscles so the punches don't knock him out. I'm like, that's so clever. So obviously that's your weakness, and that's what you build up. And that's why Rocky's a fucking genius when it comes to boxing. That's why he wins, because he knows. He's got the eye of a tiger, the thrill of the fight. And I don't know the rest of the lyrics. Like Rocky IV, where you got like Ivan Drago punching robots and like having all these like measurements taken. You got Rocky now. Fuck it, I'm just gonna carry a bag of rocks up a mountain and just sprint. That's it.
It's been said to me before that doing like the compound exercises on the machines is never as good as just using the barbells or the dumbbells.
Because you don't use all the micro muscles in your body.
They're obviously designed to do a specific muscle.
Yeah, and
whereas if you're doing the weights, like even if you don't lift it properly and lift it to the side a bit, you're exercising a different muscle by not doing it right.
Free weights are always best. I think that is the general consensus in like the weightlifting world, like Smith machines and things of that ilk, where they are useful to help you like develop your technique you shouldn't really rely on them because they make you basically just do the same movement over and over again, and that's not good for your body.
So I get that chopping wood will obviously make you stronger.
Yeah, it's a good exercise, obviously. It's basically an entire upper body workout.
I can't see though why chopping wood would make you that much stronger compared to like the actual exercise the boxers are meant to do.
See, normally I'd agree with you, but in this case it would mean arguing with Shavers himself. And given how hard he can punch, that's not a man I want to cross. Because in his own autobiography, he says that chopping wood, I personally believe, increased my punching power by 25%. Which is a wildly unscientific claim that I am not even going to try and argue with, given that 90% of the fights that Ernie Shavers won during his boxing career ended with him knocking his opponent the fuck out.
So we get an idea of how strong these punches were.
Okay.
In his prime, like, what could he do with these punches?
Well, at his physical peak, Ernie Shavers was capable of basically knocking out any opponent he faced with a single liver obliterating like hook to the body. That was impossible to block.
How was a punch impossible to block?
Because Shavers' punches were so strong that even if you did block them, they still did damage. Like, they went through your guard, basically. Like, they did scratch damage, as it were. Because, as I alluded to earlier, like, Ernie Shavers, he didn't have the best footwork, he wasn't the fastest, but his fucking punches, man, he put all his stats into strength, and that carried him basically throughout his entire boxing career. And it's noted that even if you could block his punches, they would still hurt. And it was one of his techniques, like, just basically punch through people's guard, because he knew that if you just repeatedly punch them in the arms, even though he wouldn't win on points, because they're blocking the shot, eventually their arms are going to get so bruised and bloodied, like, they're going to stop trying to gas their arms hurt that much, at which point the face and body is open. And that's how he used to win a lot of his fights. He'd just punch people's guard until their arms basically just stop working and then knock them out.
I always wonder why more boxers don't do that. If you just keep punching them, if they've got the hands guard in the face, just keep punching the guard over and over.
Because obviously you lose on points that way.
Yeah, but then if you keep doing it, they're going to get more and more dizzy and eventually we won't block one of your punches.
Because, like, you know, this isn't Street Fighter. Like, real people don't have stun meters unless they're fighting Ernie Shavers, at which point they absolutely fucking do.
And it's always empty when he throws a punch.
And there are reports from people saying, like, who faced him in the ring, just going, even when I was blocking his punches, like, a full force Ernie Shavers punch being blocked felt like being hit by another boxer unguarded. And now imagine, obviously, like, weathering, like, 3 rounds of that. People would, like, finish matches against him with their arms bloodied and bruised from the amount of punches they tried to stop from him. Like, people would, like, lower their guard and just let him hit them because it would hurt less than obviously punching them in the arm. It reminds me a lot of when I play like, UFC games.
Yeah.
Whenever I play those, like, UFC games, I do one tactic and I kick people in the fucking leg. I pick the guy with the longest legs and the fastest kicks, and I do nothing but exclusively go for leg kicks. Because in those games, just like in real life, if you kick someone in the leg enough, like, there will be a welt that will form and they will stop the fight because they can no longer put weight on it. And that is and that's what Ernie Shavers did, just with their arms. Just punch you in the arm. Basically, imagine, right, like getting a dead arm, but forever from a professional boxer. That's what it was like fighting fucking Ernie Shavers. If people don't know what a dead arm is, where you punch someone as hard as you can in the arm and they're not expecting it.
Until it goes numb.
Yeah. Now just imagine that though, and I imagine the guy at the end of it is this fucking dude, and he's carrying the axe.
It sounds like a silly question, but I'm assuming that his punches had like full knockout power.
Absolutely yes, and it's noted that Ernie Shavers possessed like sufficient power in his punches, even in later rounds, to knock someone the fuck out with one punch. On that note, because I could feel the conversation steering this way even before it began, let's talk about the best punches in fiction, and immediately just start with Saitama in One Punch Man, because I think that's the most direct comparison to fucking Ernie Shavers, because like he trained in this hyper-specific way purely to put all his stats into strength. Let's give One Punch Man, Saitama, his due, and both to say our favourite punch from the first series. So the second one's out now, but I've not watched it. So I'm gonna...
What?
Exactly, yeah. Don't worry, mate. We'll watch it after this. We'll watch it together. That'll be a moment we'll share.
I actually didn't know that.
Bring yourself back in.
Okay.
Bring yourself back in. I'm going to blow my load immediately and just go straight to the last episode and just say the serious punch against Lord Boris that splits the atmosphere of the planet with its power. Because holy fuck, I just watched that and went, yeah, I am so happy that this scene exists. This show is fucking amazing. And I know that's like difficult to talk about, that's the most powerful punch ever thrown, but have you got one that's a personal favourite?
Well, I think the first time he names one is consecutive normal punches.
Okay, is it the King Lion guy?
Yeah.
So with that out of the way, let's discuss other awesome punches from fiction. And I'm going to like open up the conversation with, like, you know, the rocket-powered punch in Pacific Rim 1. Because, I remember when I was watching that, it's like, oh man, the weight, that's the weight of the punches that always gets me. Like, 'cause it goes so slowly and you feel the impact of every hit. Especially I watched that film in the cinema, like the surround sound, like the crunch of the hit. And then he cocks the arm all the way back, and then the rockets in the elbow starting like, that's it, fucking show that Kaiju's boss. Oh, what's yours?
Let's take a completely different angle.
Okay.
I'm going to say, like, not one specific punch, but any punches thrown in classic superhero cartoons or TV shows where they always put pow!
Oh, the thwack.
And thwacks.
Or my favourite, just wank. Have you seen that one?
No.
Yeah, I think in one of the 60s like Batman episodes, there's one where he punches someone, it just says wank.
Wank.
Wank, yeah, just comes up. Because they didn't know back then that it was an innocent time. No one realised like how stupid it looked 50 years in the future. So if you can find that clip, put that one in. But yeah, I'm a big fan of like the pow, shazam, bang. Keeping it within the realm of comics, I'm going to hit back with Flash's infinite mass punch.
Ooh.
So for people who may not be familiar with what we're talking about, in the comics, obviously the Flash is the fastest man alive. And the famous equation is force equals mass times acceleration, correct?
Yeah.
And obviously the Flash can't alter his mass, but he can alter his acceleration. And in the comics, he has a move that he likes to call the infinite mass punch, because if he runs at the speed of light or close to it, he can deliver a punch with the force of an exploding supernova. And I want to like single out specifically the episode of Justice League Unlimited where Lex Luthor combined with Brainiac takes over the world and the only hero left is the Flash. And he taunts the Flash and he goes, what are you going to do? You're the last hero alive. And like he basically starts running away. And Luthor Brainiac starts laughing at him, but he don't run away. He's getting a fucking run up for a punch. And he runs all the way around the world and comes back and donkey punches Luthor Brainiac in the back of the head. And then a split second later, he's back again and again. And he does that for like 5 solid minutes. So just like these just increasingly powerful punches. And he punches him so hard that he becomes Speed incarnate and disappears into a different dimension because he ran so fast.
I remember that because there's obviously the first of all you're not really 100% sure what's going on, and then it just cuts to the shot of him going round the world.
Round the world again, and I think they've put it in like the Injustice games where that's his super move. Oh, of course it is. What else would it be? Where he runs all the way around the world and uppercuts you.
Isn't it true that punch can like destroy the universe?
If you want it to, yeah. Well, obviously because he can theoretically run an infinite speed. Obviously in our universe there is a limit for how fast things can go, and that's like the light barrier. But in the DC universe, there's the sound barrier, there's the light barrier, and then there's the dimensional barrier, and then there's like whatever the fuck goes beyond that, that's exclusively for Flash.
It's the speed force.
I don't care what it's so stupid, but I love the idea that technically the Flash, a human-sized man, can punch with enough force to detonate the entire universe if he really, really needs to.
The thing I love about the Flash is that clearly they wrote him before they knew like the full science behind the way that speed works.
He was a hero invented by people who didn't take into full account like the physics of what he can do. Because if you can run at infinite speed, you are capable of hitting with infinite force. It's similar to the character with the power of cryomancy, which we've talked about in a video before. Because like Iceman from Marvel Comics, where obviously the power he has is like making ice, but it's not, because the physics of what he's doing, it's not he's making ice, he's removing energy from the environment, because that's how ice is created. Ice is just like, it's water when all the energy from the molecules has been removed. And obviously when you like understand his power on that level, he is broken and OP as fuck. And there is one comic where someone takes over Iceman's body, and they go, you are the most powerful mutant on the planet, you fucking idiot. You're not creating ice, you're removing energy. That's ridiculous. You can do anything. You can stop anybody. You can basically like kill anything in the universe because everything's made of molecules, you idiot.
If I remember reading up on that, it's Emma Frost, I think, takes over his body.
Yes.
And she doesn't tell him how she does it, and then apparently he needs to go to her for training.
Yeah,
because he uses his own power.
And he's an Omega level mutant, and Omega level mutants in the comics are mutants so powerful they can fundamentally affect the planet itself on a continental scale. And it's like there's him, there's Magneto, and there's Storm. And it's fucking ridiculous.
Jean Grey as well.
Yeah, it's like basically those ultra powerful mutant. Iceman in the films, he's like making little roses made out of ice to flirt with girls, or blowing Wolverine's soda so it's slightly cold. And in like, if he was using the full extent of his powers, he could end the like life on the planet as we know it. Like he could fix global warming if he really wanted to. So dumb. It's like any character's got power over electricity. It's like, realistically, if you've got power over electricity, you've got power over magnetism now. You can magnetise any metal. Idiot. So before we get back to Earnie Shavers, is there any more fictional punches you want to, just share with the audience on me?
I'm going to tee you up.
Okay.
Now. I'm going to say there's got to be at least one you can think of in Dragon Ball.
In Dragon Ball. Well, I think my favourite punch in Dragon Ball is in Dragon Ball Super, where Krillin starts training again. And he asks Goku to punch him as hard as he can in the face, just to see how much stronger he is since he's training. And Goku punches Krillin, and he flies through like 6 mountains, and asks him to never do that again. And Goku tries to catch him, but he can't because he's going too fast. Or alternatively, there's like a tournament where there's like a punch machine, and all the Z fighters go, and like you see Krillin's go, bam, and it goes up to like 400. And like everyone there, like you get Android 18 just like gently like jabs it, like 800. Then Vegeta just goes up and just decimates it in one punch, just beneath him to hide his power.
Fucking Vegeta.
I love Vegeta, man.
I don't know enough about Dragon Ball, but Vegeta is just such a salty character, just constantly.
He's the fucking best. I love Vegeta so much.
So to bring this back to Shavers,
yes,
you said that other boxers were scared to go up against him.
Yes, up to and including Muhammad fucking Ali, who obviously faced Shavers in the ring once. It's one of Shavers' most famous bouts because he managed to rock Muhammad Ali and even knock him to the ground. And while Ali did win in the end, after the fight, in an interview, he told an interviewer there, like, Shavers hit me so hard my kinfolk back in Africa felt it. So basically, like, he punched me so hard like my ancestors felt like him rattling my bones. And that's a quote that, quite understandably, Shavers likes quite a lot. So whenever he's asked to sign photos of that fight, he signs it with that quote. And I'm not fucking kidding. You can find like pictures of that he signed where he's put that on it. It's just like, yeah, Shavers hit me so hard, my kinfolk back in Africa felt it. Muhammad Ali, signed by Earnie Shavers. And that is just amazing, isn't it? Like a guy widely considered the greatest boxer of all time is saying, like, I beat him, but fucking hell, it was hard. Like the way he was punching me, I almost didn't want to win. I wanted to kill. It's so ridiculous. My kinfolk back in Africa felt it. It's like, how hard must he have been hitting? Bear in mind, the people Muhammad Ali fought, like he stepped into the ring with George Foreman like 3 times.
So that's the most famous fight he's had.
Yes.
But who got their shit rocked the hardest?
What, by Earnie Shavers and one of his, like, world-destroying megaton punches?
Yeah.
That would be Sylvester Stallone.
What?
Yes. To bring it back to Rocky, as all things should do, when Sylvester Stallone was, like, scouting talent for Rocky 3, he originally pegged Earnie Shavers to play Clubber Lang, like the role played by Mr. T. And during training, like, generally they had chemistry in the ring and, like, see if, like, Shavers was in shape enough to convincingly play, like, a boxer who could stand up to Rocky. They were sparring, and Sylvester Stallone probably got very annoyed that Shavers wouldn't punch him for real. It's like doing light jabs and, like, a few, like, pretend punches. And Sylvester Stallone told him, look, if we're going to film together, you need to take me seriously. Like, I've trained a lot for these roles. Hit me as hard as you can. Shavers went, I don't want to do that. Are you sure? And Sylvester went, yes, I'm sure. Hit me for real. I can take it. And what Earnie Shavers did is he then went, okay, and immediately punched Sylvester Stallone as hard as he could in the liver. And do you know what Sylvester Stallone did?
What?
Doubled over in pain and vomited all over the ring.
Jesus.
Yeah, he then decided that he didn't want to cast Earnie Shavers as Clubber Lang and went and got Mr. T instead.
I mean, yeah.
Exactly. The thing is, well, we've talked about it before, this happened in Sylvester Stallone's next movie. When Rocky IV, the same thing happened with Dolph Lundgren. And Sylvester Stallone got punched by Dolph Lundgren in the chest and his heart nearly exploded. You think he'd have learned after facing off with Earnie Shavers? The guy's insane.
It really ruins the mythology of Rocky to know that every time he came up against like an actual boxer or someone, he just went over immediately.
In one punch, when the whole like character of Rocky is that he's basically got a cast iron jaw. And as I mentioned just then, after recovering from this gut obliterating hook to the body, Sylvester Stallone decided, no, Ernie, good punch, but I don't think you're right for the role, and went and got Mr. T, presumably because Mr. T wouldn't have uppercutted his fucking head off for punching him in the dick like he does in the movie.
Do you reckon Shavers would also sign pictures of himself saying, I'm the guy that made Rocky cry?
I won't be surprised if he did, to be fair, because there's just something amusing to me about just like the image of just like this famously tough like character or person or actor just being like, just made someone's bitch in a single punch. It's so fucking funny. Like, we said that it happened to Sylvester Stallone twice. He's a big, tough dude. Like, he's not... Like, he did a lot of that fighting for real, but the fact that on 2 separate occasions, he got knocked out or, like, sent to the ground, like, gasping for air. Like, the case of Dolph Lundgren when he punched him, sent to fucking hospital from a single punch. It's just a hilarious thing. Like, but he played Rocky, and Rocky wins all those fights.
Yeah.
And then in real life, like, Rocky, the guy who plays, getting his shit wrecked. Have you got any example that's been to your mind of something similar?
Well, there's a trope in fiction that's used in movies a lot of the big guy who gets beaten by the smaller guy with skill.
Yes.
I mean, the most famous recent one being the Viper in the Mountain.
The Viper in the Mountain, yes.
Yeah, but the one I'm thinking of is, have you seen Troy?
I have not seen Troy, but I'm familiar with the story.
The opening scene of Troy is, these 2 armies are coming together, and the leaders decide to do what's basically a one-on-one fight.
Right.
Pick your best warriors.
Settle it the old way.
Yeah, and when one of them brings out this warrior who's about 8 feet tall, basically built like the Mountain, and then the other side obviously brings out Brad Pitt, who's Achilles, and Brad Pitt charges this guy and defeats him by just jumping up and getting one stab into the neck because he's such a better trained fighter. But that's a common trope. Like, big guy gets defeated by small to prove the smaller guy's better.
To prove that a skill triumphs over strength. Well, my example's slightly different, and it's a real life one of a famously tough man, like, being brought like to tears, and it's that of Gordon Ramsay. So you familiar with this story?
You did mention this.
Okay, so people don't like Gordon Ramsay. Everyone knows Gordon Ramsay, don't they? If not, check our subscriptions and go see who we're subscribed to. We fucking love that guy. And obviously, he was famous back in the day for like how ferocious his temper was, and he would make all of his sous chefs and the people working on him cry with just how demanding and just angry he was all the time. But there's a great story, like the guy who basically taught Gordon Ramsay everything he knows, a chef called Marco Pierre White. And there's a story thrown around by people in the industry that when Gordon first started working for Marco Pierre White, he yelled at him so much that Gordon Ramsay started crying. And that is amazing. Imagine I'm the guy who made Gordon Ramsay cry. Holy fuck, that's like... If I pulled that off, that would be on my tombstone. I don't care if I landed on the moon after that. No, I made Gordon Ramsay cry like a bitch. It reminds me a lot of like the Jackass crew.
Okay.
Obviously, famously, have taken so much punishment over the years. Like they've had their knackers just destroyed by every conceivable object that can be thrown at them. And there's like obviously in one of the movies, like Bam Margera, who has had like his Lamborghini destroyed multiple times. He's fallen off his skateboard more times than anyone can count. He's had like fucking staples shot into his head, all that stuff. But then there's that one thing where they make him like jump into the pit and he falls and they put a load of rubber snakes in there and he starts crying because he's scared of snakes. And it's that idea of like, he has faced everything. Like he has been like shot, unimaginable punishment, and then he sees like a rubber snake and he bursts into tears. Like that, it's just so weird to think, isn't it? Like, all the stuff you've done, this is what you're scared of. And I love that prank as well, because it's like, it's next level what they do. Because it's a stunt where he's supposed to jump over something, and then he falls through the floor and lands in a boxers, and it's a prank on a prank. And it's full of rubber snakes. And he shits himself with the rubber snakes and goes, oh, and then they realise they're rubber, but then there's real snakes under the rubber snakes. It's like, that is so perfect. I can't believe the people who invented the vomit omelette came up with like just these layers upon layers of just like prankingness. It's so ridiculous. That's like the one where they say, oh, they invite them all to a photo shoot. And they say it's a photo shoot, but it's not. And they just dump bees into the car. And then after that, they put marbles outside the door and then lock the door. It's like, oh man, who thinks of this stuff? It's great. So just that, I love that one where he just like it zooms in on Bam. So it's like, are you crying? He goes, yeah, dude, it's a snake. But the fact that it's rubber snakes, and he sees the rubber, and he has that moment of, oh, thank fuck for that. And then he sees the real snake, and it gets him again. The twofer. He's never been topped. It's so good.
The entire Jackass crew, though, like whenever they do interviews and people say, oh, "What's the worst injury you've had?" It's never the one you expect.
No, it's always something innocuous.
It's always something like I think Johnny Knoxville's one is like jumping over a river.
The very first stunt they ever did, where he tries to jump over a 2-foot high piece of water on roller skates because he completely shattered his ankle.
Yeah, this is a man who's had like I think his eye popped out.
Yeah.
He's broken like several limbs. His balls have probably popped open at some point.
We can't use his dick, can he?
Can he not?
No. Johnny Knoxville's dick don't work. Fun fact. He's had so much punishment directed at the dick area. He has to use like a catheter or something to piss. And maybe that was like just for a short period of time, but like so his dick is all kinds of fucked up. And tripping over Just like, a little river in roller skates is the most painful thing he ever did. And like, again, for Van Margera, the scariest thing he's ever done. A man who's faced down like unthinkable like physical trauma would scare a rubber snake.